Welcome to Way Better Southern Cooking Games with Chef Gerron Hurt. During our time together, you will learn how to make the ultimate Southern feast, dish by dish. Today, we will learn and begin by cooking a Southern side staple, collard greens. But Chef Gerron style, we're going to add a little bit of cabbage in with those collard greens to take it to the next level. Get ready, get set, let's cook. To create our amazing collard and cabbage dish today, you'll need several ingredients. You'll need pre-cut collard greens, already cleaned, 1 head of cabbage, 2 cups of chicken stock, 2 turkey legs, necks, or turkey tails smoked, 1 stick of butter, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, 3 cloves of garlic minced, 1 yellow onion, 1 bouillon cube, chicken flavored, salt and pepper. As far as equipment, you'll need 1 Dutch oven with a lid for braising, 1 cutting board, 1 butcher's knife, and 1 wooden spoon. Alright, beautiful people, to begin our wonderful cabbage and collard side dish, what we're going to do first is to make sure our cast iron Dutch oven, you may not have a cast iron Dutch oven, but if you're cooking Southern food, this may be something that you want to invest in because it cooks everything to perfection, okay? We are braising our collard greens. You see that smoke coming out of there? That just lets us know that our pan is nice and hot, all right? First thing we're going to do is get our butter in, all right? And we want that pan nice and hot. When you're cooking Southern food, you want to be sure to use plenty of butter because butter is that fat of choice. It is what's going to give us that consistent, rich flavor in everything that we're cooking, all right? So I'm just going to move that butter around to make sure that it does not stick. And while it's going to melt, what I want to do is I want to get my onions cut up so that I can get my diced onion, or actually onion slices inside of the melted butter. So I'm going to cut off both sides of the onion, push that over to the side. I'll give that onion 1 slice down the middle, a quick peel. And I'm just going to slice my onions roughly in a crescent. Think about slicing your onions over the sunrise because I want my onions to have some sort of texture when I put them into the butter. Alright, onions go in. I got another half of my onion I'm going to go ahead and slice again. So again, I'm not dicing this, I'm just literally just doing a rough slice because I want my onions to be able to have some texture, and I want to be able to taste those onions when I add my collard greens and cabbage. Alright, I'm going to give those onions a stir. Alright, that's going to start this amazing flavor that we're looking for, okay? My mama always told me that onions were the root of a lot of Southern dishes, and that's because of the sweetness and the joy that they bring. These leftover onion scraps, now if you are a person who is very, very conservant with your food, what you could do is add these into a bowl and you can use that to cook a stock later. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to toss them because I don't plan on cooking a chicken stock anytime soon, okay? Alright, so once we get the onions sauteed down inside the butter, now we're going to add some fresh garlic. So what we're going to do is mince these 3 cloves of garlic with the back of our knives. We're going to put our weight down on those cloves just to flatten them out a bit. And if you notice, they're cracked. And we're just going to take our knife and rock it back and forth to get a nice mix on these cloves. Alright? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now it doesn't necessarily have to be very small mince, but it does need to be small enough so that the garlic is dispersed throughout the dish. Alright? Alright, and then I give that a quick stir. Make sure I clean my edges. Alright, onions and garlic in. The next thing I need to do is put my bouillon cube in, okay? This is going to add some intense chicken flavor. And it's going to make your greens and your cabbage, it's just going to take it to the next level as far as seasoning is concerned, okay? You're going to use the entire bouillon cube, alright? And then you're going to take your wooden spoon or spatula and you're just going to kind of work that in until it dissolves. Alright? No need to add any additional salt in right now this minute because your bouillon has a high sodium volume, and so your salt you're going to save to the end and you're going to salt to taste. Once we get that bouillon cube in, the next thing we want to do is we want to do a rough chop on our cabbage, because we want our cabbage to start cooking down. Typically when I cut cabbage, this core piece, we want to make sure that it is completely cut off, because if you try to cook it, it'll be kind of unappetizing to the palate because of the thickness. So the first thing we want to do is give that thing a slice, okay? See that? I'm going to throw that into the trash. Alright? We also want to cut that off so that our cabbage sits up firmly so that we can cut it into slices. Alright? Now we're just going to just cut it into slices. Alright? And I like to work with a half of a cabbage at a time because it's so big, sometimes it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to set this aside. And then once I cut my cabbage down into slices, I'm going to go maybe 3 slices down the middle here. And if you are using a cutting board at home, the best thing that I do so that my cabbage does not, or that my cutting board does not move, I just put a wet paper towel underneath my cutting board. Alright? Cabbage is sliced down, cabbage goes in. And it'll be easier if I just pick the cutting board up and dump the cabbage in. Okay? As you can see, that is my wet paper towel. It just stops my cutting board from slipping. Alright? Half of a cabbage in. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the other half of it. Alright? 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'll give about 3 slices the opposite way. Alright. Pick that cabbage up and it goes in. I know as you're looking at the pot, you're probably wondering that there's not going to be much room left for our collard greens, but there actually is going to be room. Once the butter and the onion mixture starts to saute this cabbage, it'll cook down and then you'll be able to add your greens to the mix, okay? So what we want to do is just kind of toss that around a bit. Alright. Now, our next step, we're going to add our chicken stock, okay? So we're just going to take and add our chicken stock. Here. And once we add our chicken stock, that will start to create steam for our greens to go in, okay? Chicken stock in, apple cider vinegar in. Alright. We can take our turkey meat or our smoked turkey. For me, these are smoked turkey tails. I'll just take and just throw those right in. And then I'm going to put a top on top of my cabbage, okay? This will allow me the cabbage to cook down a bit so that we can put the greens in, and then everything will be able to braise together. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this pot and see how our cabbage is doing. Oh wow, it smells amazing in here. Alright, so as you can see, this cabbage has been boiling for about 20 minutes, alright? The cabbage is getting nice and soft. The smoked turkey is almost submerging into the liquid, the braising liquid. So now it's time to add our collard greens in, okay? Don't be afraid to try and get all of those collard greens in, and there will be a mess sometimes. Just be sure to pick up those excess greens and just try to get all of those in the pot. Alright? It's no big deal if some of them spill out. Again, just try to get them all in the pot and get a top on it, okay? The steam from the braising liquid will make the greens wither and get a lot smaller, where everything will be able to fit into the pot as one, okay? We will not salt and pepper until our greens and our cabbage have meshed together, okay? Alright guys, let's get in here and go ahead and check on our pot of goodies here. Alright, so I'm going to take my spoon and just kind of push those greens down into the cabbage a little bit so that we get a nice even cook. Alright, I want to make sure my turkey meat kind of gets down into that braising liquid. And when I say braising, a lot of people are unfamiliar what that means. All that means is that we are cooking these vegetables in a pot of liquid, low and slow, for a long period of time. And so this cabbage and greens will cook for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on your desired texture. But for me, I like them to cook until my greens are very, very dark. Okay? We'll put the top back on and we'll revisit this pot in the next 30 to 45 minutes. And then this bad boy will be smoking and ready to enjoy and eat. Alright guys, it's been 35 minutes. Let's go ahead and get in there. A couple things to note. When you pull the top off of your pot, be sure to have some type of a cloth because it gets pretty hot. This is the texture that we're looking for, okay? You want to make sure that you have a nice amount of greens to cabbage ratio. You want to make sure that your greens and your cabbage is nice and tender, alright? My number one rule in the kitchen all times is to make sure that you taste everything. So I'm going to taste this just to make sure that it's absolutely delicious. And another rule, when you guys cook anything, make sure that your heat is on medium, okay? You never want to cook on high heat. Low is okay depending on what you're cooking, but you always want to start out on medium heat. Your braising liquid has cooked down a bit and all of your flavor is in the pot, okay? Couple things to note, now is the time to add some pepper, all right? And a little bit of salt, okay? Before you add salt and pepper, please, my number one rule in the kitchen is to taste everything. Please taste. This concludes our day one of Southern cooking with Chef Gerron. Cabbage and collard greens, amazing to die for, guys. This will keep in the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days. And by the end of our journey together, this will be good to pair with all of the other Southern dishes that you guys will make. All right? See you guys tomorrow.